Hello everyone. In last class we have already discussed about the essentials of the contract. In that third essential is intention to create legal obligation. Under the contract there should be a legal relationship between the parties. If there is no legal relationship there is no contract. Legal relationship is nothing but there should be a legal purpose between for the contract. If there is a social relationship, for example, if there is a relationship between the husband and wife, or the any relationship between the friends, or brothers and sisters, or the father and son, these relationships are the social relationships. These are cannot constitute a contract. So to constitute a contract or to create a contract there should be a legal relationship, there should be a legal intention to create a contract. Okay, under this there is one case law, that is Balfour versus Balfour. We have to study one case law, that is Balfour versus Balfour. See, and this main subject is what? Intention to create legal relationship or intention to create legal obligation. There should be a legal obligation. This case was held in the year 1919. Held in the year 1919. Under this we'll see, Mr. Balfour, the defendant, was a civil servant, stayed in Ceylon. Mr. Balfour was a defendant. Defendant is nothing but the person on whom case is filed, right? The person on whom the case is filed, right? Prativadi, dependent. In this case, the case is filed on Mr. Balfour. Is a civil. He was a civil servant and he stayed in Ceylon. Ceylon now it is called Sri Lanka. Okay, stayed in Ceylon. He and his wife went to England to enjoy the holidays. When they were about to leave England for Ceylon, Mrs. Balfour fell ill. So she could not come back to Ceylon. Okay, here Mrs. Balfour and Balfour went to England to enjoy the holidays. When they were about to leave the England for Ceylon, Mrs. Balfour, wife of the Balfour, fell into sick. Okay, she is not well, fell into sick. So she is not in a position to. She was not in a position to came back to the Ceylon. Okay, so she decided to stay back in England. She decided to stay back in England. Both went to the England for the enjoying the holidays. Okay, when they were about to leave the England, Mrs. Balfour fell into sick. Wife of the Balfour fell into sick, and she was not in a position to came back to the Ceylon. So she decided to stay back in England. And Mr. Balfour promised to send her £30 a month for her maintenance expenses. Okay, she agreed to stay in England, and Mr. Balfour, came back to Ceylon with the promise of, he promised to send £30 per month. Okay, £30. It is a symbol of pound. It is a symbol of pound. Okay, this is a symbol of pound. Okay, a month for her maintenance expenses. But after returning to Ceylon, Mr. Balfour did not keep up his promise to his wife. As per the promise, Mr. Balfour had to send £30 per month to Mrs. Balfour, to his wife, for the maintaining expenses. But after returning to Ceylon, Mr. Balfour did not keep up his promise to his wife. He forgot to send £30 per month. He did not keep up his promise. So Mrs. Balfour sued Mr. Balfour for breach of agreement. Now wife of Balfour filed a case on Balfour for the non-payment of the maintenance expenses, for the non-payment of the maintenance expenses or the breach of contract. Breach of contract is nothing but for breaking the contract, breaking the promise. Who broke the promise here? Miss Balfour. Balfour broke the promise. So the wife of Balfour, Mrs. Balfour, filed a case on Mr. Balfour. Okay. Next, but suit was dismissed by the court. The suit was not agreed in the court. It was dismissed by the court because there is no legal relationship or legal obligations or consequences had been arrived in the agreement between husband and wife, and so there was no contract, because here the relationship between Mr. Balfour and Mrs. Balfour is the husband and wife. So this case is dismissed by the court. There is no legal relationship or legal obligations between the husband and wife. So the another person, if there is a breach of contract in these situations, they cannot sue on the another party. Agreement between husband and wife is a social obligation. It is a social obligation. So wife cannot sue on husband for the breach of agreement. So wife cannot sue on the husband for the breach of the agreement. Okay. This is about the case law of Balfour versus Balfour. Once again, briefly I will explain. This case is relating to the intention to create legal obligation. This case was held in the 1919. Mr. Balfour, the defendant, was a civil servant in the Ceylon. Ceylon means Sri Lanka. He and his wife went to the England for enjoying the holidays. When they were about to leave the England, the wife of Mr. Balfour, Mrs. Balfour, fell into sick. So she decided to stay back in England till her recovery. So Balfour promised to pay £30 per month for her expenses. But after came back to the Ceylon, Mr. Balfour did not keep up his promise. So Mrs. Balfour sued on Miss Balfour for the breach of the contract or for the non-payment of the maintenance expenses. But this case was dismissed by the court because there is no legal relationship or legal obligation or consequences arising between the husband and wife. So there was no contract. Agreement between husband and wife is a social obligation. It's just an agreement, it's not a contract. So wife cannot sue on husband for the breach of the agreement. So this is about the first case law, Balfour versus Balfour. Thank you.